If you browse the internet long enough, you'll eventually stumble across one of history's most bizarre trivia facts. In the late 1980s, PepsiCo, the company that makes Mountain Dew and Doritos, briefly possessed the sixth largest military in the world. Our story begins at the height of the Cold War. It's the summer of 1959. The U.S. State Department decides the best way to fight communism isn't just with nukes, but with consumerism. They set up the American National Exhibition in Moscow to show the Soviet people the wonders of capitalism, color TVs, dishwashers, and Pepsi. Vice President Richard Nixon is leading Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev through the exhibit. The two get into a heated argument about the merits of their respective economic systems, an event immortalized as the kitchen debate. The summer heat is stifling, tempers are flaring. Sensing an opportunity, a shrewd Pepsi executive named Donald Kendall steps in. He hands Khrushchev a cool, refreshing cup of Pepsi. Khrushchev drinks it. He loves it. He even tells the crowd that the Pepsi made with Moscow water tastes better than the Pepsi made with American water. In a single sip, Kendall achieved what diplomats couldn't. He breached the Iron Curtain. Fast forward to 1972. Donald Kendall is now the CEO of PepsiCo, and his old friend Richard Nixon is president. Kendall brokers a historic deal to officially bring Pepsi to the Soviet Union. It becomes the very first Western capitalist product legally sold in the USSR. There was just one massive problem: the money. So they reverted to the oldest economic system in human history: barter. The Soviets agreed to pay for Pepsi syrup using their own liquid gold, Stolichnaya vodka. Pepsi became the exclusive importer of Stolichnaya in the United States. The deal was a smash hit. Americans drank the vodka, Russians chugged the Pepsi. By the late 1980s, Soviet citizens were drinking roughly 1 billion servings of Pepsi a year, but by 1989, the honeymoon was over. The Soviet economy was in absolute freefall. To make matters worse, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan led to a massive American boycott of Russian products. Pepsi had a surplus of vodka sitting in warehouses that no American wanted to buy, and the Soviets were demanding more Pepsi syrup to keep their citizens happy. Pepsi's contract was up for renewal. The Soviets desperately wanted to keep the soda flowing, but they were out of vodka that Pepsi could actually sell, and they still didn't have any hard currency. They had to offer something else, something they had an absolute abundance of: weapons. In 1989, the Soviet Union and PepsiCo signed a new agreement. In exchange for the continued supply of Pepsi, the Soviet government handed over a small armada: 17 submarines, 1 cruiser, 1 frigate, and 1 destroyer. This is the exact moment where the internet legend was born. Memes and articles claim that this transaction instantly made Pepsi the 6th largest military power on Earth. It's a great story, but Pepsi immediately flipped the entire fleet to a Swedish scrapyard. The millions of dollars they made from the scrap steel covered the cost of the Pepsi syrup. But even if it wasn't a functional combat fleet, the optics of a soda company buying a communist navy were hilarious. Donald Kendall, the Pepsi CEO, famously bumped into Brent Scowcroft, the U.S. National Security Advisor, and joked, "We're disarming the Soviet Union faster than you are." The submarine deal was just a stopgap. A year later, in 1990, Pepsi brokered an even bigger deal: a $3 billion agreement to trade Pepsi for the construction of modern civilian oil tankers. But history had other plans. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed entirely. Suddenly, Pepsi's massive $3 billion deal vanished into thin air. The shipyards were now in the independent country of Ukraine. The bottling plants were spread across different nations with new borders. Pepsi was left scrambling to renegotiate contracts with half a dozen new countries, all while their rival, Coca-Cola, swooped in and flooded the newly opened Russian market. It proves that sometimes the pen is mightier than the sword, but a cold soda, that might just be mightier than a submarine.